Fields has been making funk and soul records since 1969. Along the way, he's sung with Kool and the Gang, Wright and Sharon Jones. In 2017, he released his 7th solo record entitled Special Night. He's backed by The Expressions, an evolving cast of players that's included some of the world's finest musicians. There's hints of Stax, Chess, Muscle Shoals and Motown in Lee's sound, but as we discuss in this interview, Lee is simply writing what he sees and passionately making music for real people experiencing real life. Lee Fields, welcome to the Blues Kitchen. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Been pretty good?
Yeah.
So we were just having a bit of a chat. Sounds like your tour's been a wild success so far.
We've been having a good time. People been showing a lot of love. The main thing is love, man, you know. The world needs more.
There's a song on your record, and I have to congratulate you on an amazing record, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Special Night is incredible. It came out last year, didn't it?
Yeah.
Special Night. I've got a lyric written down here from Make the World.
Okay.
And you've got, make the world better if we come together.
Right.
And a huge amount of positivity. Very simple, incredibly positive. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about writing that song.
Like I have said many of times, I write what I see. And what I see today is divisions. Anything that divides is breaking down. The world needs to be cohesive. It needs to be a bond between all people.
Well, I think almost single-handedly, just going out and with a message like that every night of being together, you know, that lyric, make the world better if we come together, you're kind of single-handedly doing your bit. You know, I think you can go to sleep easy at night, knowing that you're doing something very positive when you go out and perform or you go into the studio and record.
Well, I do because I sing in hope that something that I say will make people feel better and will make people more positive.
So on that feeling being very positive, you first, if we may, let's go back a few years.
Okay.
You first put out a record in 1969.
69, right.
And I think since you've recorded for 13, 14 different labels. How's your approach to making a record changed, or has it stayed the same all the way through?
My process of recording has changed. Before, I was trying to be in accord with everyone else. What people was cutting at the time, I tried to mimic.
So you're trying to keep up with the fashions of the time, perhaps?
But now, I record what I feel. Because I think that's what being an artist is all about. It's like painting a picture. And opposed to recording what I think the people want, I record what the people do, what I see, and what I feel like is needed. Because I think recording is information. You know, everybody's so careful about what they eat. Everybody's so careful about their bodies. You see gems all over the place. But we never take the time to think what's going in our head. You know, our mind. It's good lyrics and there's bad lyrics. The same way with food. I mean, if you're gonna be so careful what I eat, oh man, I don't eat that, man, because that has too much of this and it. Words. I try to write my songs with choice words. Everything is deliberate.
Well, you're doing a good job of it.
Thank you so much.
Let's rewind a little bit further. So 1969 was your first record.
Right.
But I saw an interview with you a few days ago, and you were saying that the first music that you remember hearing was country music.
Yeah.
You're talking about Hank Williams, and you're talking about Jimmy Reed, which I found really interesting. Why was that?
When I was a kid around 1955, in North Carolina, all the radio stations were playing country and western, and you would hear soul music on the weekends, maybe an hour or two on the weekends on certain stations.
Oh, so it was specific shows, but most of the time all you could get was country.
Yeah,
so that's what you had.
Most of the time I would listen to country and western. Then if I had a transistor radio, I used to get WABC, Cousin Brucey, and I would hear the pop music.
Yeah.
But most of the time, if you want to hear a real clear station in the area where I was living, it was country and western. And I grew to love country and western music, man, you know, because it has stories. It had stories about people's lives. So that influenced me greatly. And I still listen to country and western.
So you've been on the road with some of our favourite artists over your kind of long musical history. Overy Wright, we just mentioned a little while ago. Kool and the Gang.
Yeah.
But I don't know in what context. Were you singing with them? Were you opening up for them?
No, I was singing with Kool and the Gang.
Were you?
Before they made it.
That must have been a cool job.
Man, they was poor. Oh man, they was.
You mean you were poor? No money?
Everybody was poor. Kool was living with his grandmama in the projects in Jersey City. Him and Ronnie. Ronnie don't call himself Ronnie no more. I forget what he calls himself now. Because I haven't seen Kool and got to be since the 70s. We had we had a conversation in the early 70s. They were prior to them really taking off. Because I sang for them about 6 months. Gene Red, I was never part of the band. Gene Red, their manager, thought it would be a great idea to hook us up. So we did maybe about 6 months together. But those guys, man, I knew at the time, I was kind of like rambunctious. But Kool was like really focused, him and his brother. They was really, and DT and all the boys, they was really focused.
Yeah.
Like, after we do a set, they want to go back into the dress room and they call it skull busting.
What was skull busting?
This when you talk about how you can make the next set better.
Right, okay.
I wanted to be out there, man, you know.
You want to party?
Not partying, I want to be out there mingling with the people.
Yeah.
You know, seeing what they felt. But I knew those guys were going to make it.
What about the Overy Wright connection?
I opened up for O.V. Wright a couple of times. When I saw that guy, man, he was so cool, man. I was heavily influenced by O.V. Wright because he was such a cool guy. And when he sang, man, like the women like went crazy. It was like kind of like a spiritual experience. The last time I worked with him, I guess I was maybe about 15, 16.
Wow, so you were young.
Yeah, man, I was learning. And the way he handled himself on stage, man, I learned a lot from him. A lot. Overy Wright, one of the greatest, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I very much agree. Let's come back to present day and your last record. So the Expressions as a band has evolved over time.
Yeah.
But how did that come together in the first place? And how did you meet Leon and Jeff from the label? And how did that all come together? Who put the band together around? Did you sort
This is in the mid-90s. I got a call from these guys, and they said they want to do a song with me. They heard me on the record. They want to do a song. And they seemed to be on top of their game as far as, because I asked them a few things. They knew everybody. They knew everybody from Overy Wright. Anybody I knew, they knew.
Yeah.
So I figured these guys are going to be, you know, some older guys. So I go out to Long Island to cut the first song. The first song was, I think, Steam Train. And I knock on the door, and I see these kids come to the door. 2 kids, man, you know, Philip Lehman and Gabe, I guess they was about 19 or 20. I said to myself, what do these guys know about soul music? So I walked in there and they talked a little bit, and then we started to record. I said, these guys are very knowledgeable, man, to be so young.
They were living it and breathing it,
yeah.
right?
So they knew everybody, man. So it started from that. We cut Steam Train. The next thing I know, I was on the road. This is the late 90s. So it started like that. And then I cut one record, and then they brought Sharon in as the background singer. She was singing on some of my records. And Leon Michaels was part of the The group was called the Soul Providers.
Brilliant.
And they changed their name to the Dap Kings later. Sharon became their singer because I went with the Sugarman 3. I thought it was more practical because we had this big band and they wanted a tour, like all over the place. And so it was practical for me because if I'm gonna go on the road with all of these guys, man, the money was so little. And I'm making real good money down here with Ace Records down in Mississippi on the Southern Soul circuit. So it was more practical to take 4 pieces out.
It's another thing I saw written down about you, which I thought was a compliment, but I didn't know if it's the kind of thing that might kind of annoy you perhaps, but it says that you're not indebted specifically to Atlantic or Stax or Chess or Fame or Motown, as so much as indebted to all of them at once. I thought that's really nice because, you know, you're in the same field as those guys, which you most certainly should be. But do those comparisons sometimes frustrate you? Just because you're a soul singer, you automatically get compared to Motown or Stax or the Muscle Shoals recordings?
No, I love Motown, I love Stax. I love to be mentioned, you know, just to be in the conversation. I mean, that's a compliment. If people are talking and my name come up in the conversation, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Whether they talking negative or what, as long as I'm in the conversation. At least in the conversation, as long as they bring the name up.
So I have one more thing to ask you before, well, more to suggest, if you like, but before we take you back for your sound check. You've got all of the Blues Kitchen audience that are going to be watching or listening to this. Now, other than telling them to go and listen to your record or come to one of your shows, what message do you have for our listeners?
The message is love. We need more love in this world so that the world doesn't disintegrate. The only thing that can save us is love. I don't know why people don't want to love. I love to love.
That's a good place for us to wrap up. It's been wonderful chatting to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I think if there was a few more people with a message like yours, we'd be in a much better place.
There are. There's a lot of love out there.
Cool.
I'm very, very optimistic. Very optimistic.